Hi, I'm Chike Coleman. That's Sanford Hess. This is Real Reviews Home Edition, the show where we talk about movies from our homes. This week, we're talking about one of my favorite genres, time travel, or in this case, time looping. That's what both of our films have in common today. The first film is going to be Live, Die, Repeat, or as it was originally known, Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. And the second film is going to be Hulu's newest exclusive, Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg and Kristen Milotti, with an appearance by J.K. Simmons. So first, let's talk about Edge of Tomorrow. Sanford, can you dissect the plot for us on Edge of Tomorrow? It's one of my favorite films, and I
Well,
just want to hear your take on it.
you tipped your hand. I'll do my best. So the movie opens with a quick history of a couple of events, which were basically the Earth is attacked by aliens, and the people of Earth kind of gang into an all Earth army to fight the aliens, who they call mimics, which wasn't really explained why they call them mimics. But the mimics are in Europe, and so there's a little bit of kind of a D-Day invasion kind of thing, where there's going to be a big invasion from London into Europe, but led by these people. And the movie opens with kind of this really interesting montage, including Tom Cruise as a spokesman for the military, who's explaining the process that it's going to be. Well, flash forward to Tom Cruise then visiting the general's office, and we learn that Tom Cruise is actually a recruited advertising person who happened to be a ROTC officer in college and does not really see himself as a soldier. He is at that point informed that he will be with the front line of people advancing in the with the attack, which he does not think is a good idea. And he tries to get out of it several different ways, but ultimately he is essentially knocked unconscious and wakes up handcuffed at the barracks where the troops are preparing to invade. Now, from that point forward, we then see him proceed to go forward with the invasion force. He, this being a sort of typical military movie, he's introduced to the J Company. And, you know, there's a little bit of a smattering of kind of cast of characters. Anyway, they're dropped into the fighting, and quickly Tom Cruise dies. What? But he actually is killed by being bled upon by one of the mimics. And not just any mimic, but one of the alpha mimics. So what that means, we eventually learn, is that he has now been stuck into a time loop. He is now reliving this same timeline again and again and again, waking up handcuffed at the barracks and realizing each day that he is trying, and suddenly his answer of why he's doing this becomes clear to him, because Emily Blunt, who plays this sort of super soldier, is somebody he keeps interacting with in every one of the timelines of the day that he experiences. And he comes to realize that his purpose in the day is to help her to survive. And so he gets better and better in the day. He's fortunately, he brings this memory with him from day to day. So he learns how to train. He over time meets her earlier in the day, and she shows him training. Turns out she actually had been stuck in a time loop also for a different battle. A little bit of a sideways story.
Mm-hmm.
As the movie progresses, then he gets better and better at the day and gets farther and farther along in terms of helping her to survive. Then we kind of take a little bit of a tangent. We learn about the omegas of the mimics, and it turns out that he has a mental bridge to the omega, and his purpose is to kill the omega.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the movie progresses as he gets farther and farther along in this goal. Ironically, actually, he gets farther along by starting the day earlier in terms of trying to kill the omega, not actually going to the battle at all.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, till there's a massive showdown at the end. And this being a Tom Cruise movie, there's big explosions, and Tom Cruise comes out okay. So that was a very summarized version of this movie. Now, I will say this: that description doesn't do any justice to this movie. This
You
movie, I
told
really,
way too much. I'm just gonna put that out there. No offense, but you told way too much.
Well, I tried to keep it to like 90 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me say this: I saw this movie when it first came out. and I enjoyed it. And then when you suggested we watch Palm Springs, I was like, "Oh, that would be interesting. We should. I'm gonna watch. I want to watch that again." This movie was twice as good the second time through. And the main reason that I would say is because they really do a great job with the time looping part. All the other actors perform their performances again and again. So Tom Cruise is walking through the same day. Most of the other people in this day are doing the same things. He, of course, is playing off them. And
Hmm.
the filmmakers do a great job playing that up, sometimes through humor, sometimes to explain the plot developments. But in general, it's just really great how they take the time loop and work it through. And yet the movie has a plot that it progresses through even though he's reliving the same day again and again. Chike, what did you think of this movie?
This is one of those movies where I was like, it's a sci-fi movie. Great. It's a Tom Cruise movie. Great. I'll go see it. And when I sat down to this movie, eh, I took this movie more for laughs than for the drama it represents. But I loved it for the fact that Tom Cruise sucks for like 85% of the movie. He's stubborn. He's not the action hero we know him to be. And he's weak on so many different levels in terms of his personal skills. Given that this guy was started out as an executive, you'd think that would be a strong suit. It's not, because he just doesn't want to be here, no matter how many times he loops, until he starts to get good. Then he gains confidence in himself. Then he gains confidence in the company. It all evolves so beautifully, and most of that is thanks to the direction by Doug Liman, who, for those who aren't familiar, he directed the Bourne Identity, when that trilogy or quadrilogy now first started.
Yeah.
Um, I really love how this man starts with no purpose, and by the end, no matter the fact that he looped so much, gave him purpose, showed him the way he needed to go to survive. And the fact that, spoiler, he survives at the end is amazing, because we want to see more adventures with this guy. We want to see how he progresses more as a person. And I think that's what makes this movie kind of a, to steal a phrase from TNT, new classic. Uh, Especially the fact that you get Emily Blunt being a badass.
She
Which,
is
if
a
you've seen
badass.
Emily Blunt in anything else, you know that that's her major MO, is that she's a badass. In A Quiet Place, a badass. In Edge of Tomorrow, a badass. Just unstoppable. Even in Mary Poppins Returns, a really bad Mary Poppins sequel, she's a badass. Um, just amazing acting all around, amazing supporting characters who you'll find memorable just on the basic details that Tom Cruise relives and expands upon those relationships throughout the movie. There's so much great to take away from this film. It's a time looping adventure that you want to rewind and watch over and over and over again.
Sounds like a
Um,
tagline. Well, and you know, you touched upon another cool thing about this movie. So this movie, you know, there's a lot of things that they thought through that are really cool. So one of the things that they think through is, okay, Tom Cruise. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, especially, he's like an ad man. He's not a soldier. Well, fortunately, the soldiers go fight in these exoskeletons. And one of the little things they think of early in the movie and make a big deal about, because Emily Blunt is one of them too, is that these soldiers are fighting within those exoskeletons. So even though it's a military movie and you have the company of military grunts, just like you have in every other war movie, they don't have to be male soldiers. And they don't have to all be these, you know, cut muscular guys, because the movie introduces this idea of these exoskeletons that they use. The group of people that he deals with are, you know, different. They're different races. There's men, there's women, there's big people, there's small people. They, you know, there's a one guy in the pink bathrobe, which they don't really explain. But in all these cases, it doesn't matter, because when they actually go to fight, they're inside of these metal boxes. And that also gives you a way to explain how Tom Cruise can, like you said, become a badass over the course of the movie by training on how to use the exoskeleton. So it doesn't actually
Not just
require
that,
like physical
traditional combat
mobility.
as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not just that though, traditional combat as well.
Well, I mean, but fighting from within that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, no, it's a cool thing, and it adds a nice sort of 21st century take on the war movie, because it's again it's just not just this, oh, it's a bunch of white guys and one of them happens to be from New York and one's from the South. It's not that at all. It's, here's an Australian guy who's kind of crazy, and here's this girl, we don't know where she's from, and then I like you said, they introduce some characters, and they don't, that's one of the ways this movie has a lot of fun with the timeline. They don't actually bother to show Tom Cruise bonding with the characters. They just have later where he knows all this stuff and say, hey, yeah, he's been living the same day again and again. He had lots of time to learn this. So it
yeah.
becomes a very effective method for storytelling.
And oddly, it builds some of the most layered relationships you've seen in a time looping movie.
Well, what a nice segue to talk about another time looping movie.
Well, before we get to that,
Okay.
since I accidentally walked into that one, would you recommend Edge of Tomorrow or
Live, die, repeat.
Live, Die, Repeat?
Yes, absolutely. Although not to my wife, because she watched it with me and she did not particularly enjoy it. So if
I think it might have been the Alien Blood.
I don't know what it was. I mean, she likes Tom Cruise movies, but she said, sci-fi war movie was not her thing. So,
Gotcha.
but anybody who's into sci-fi, or especially if you have, if you have an open mind about this kind of time travel or time looping stuff, this is to me, a really great take on what it's like, what it would be like for somebody to go through that and live the same day again and again.
Agreed. So, talking about the growth of relationships through a time loop, the next film on our list is the Hulu presented Palm Springs. I'm going to keep saying that because Hulu makes a big deal about the fact that this movie is on their service. Palm Springs stars Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti as Niles and Sarah. Sarah is attending the wedding of her sister and is, in fact, a bridesmaid for her sister. Her sister's getting married to this guy who is played by, oh, my brain, help me here. Oh, it's the guy who's currently playing Superman on the ZW. I don't remember his name right offhand.
Abe is his character.
Abe is his character. But anyway, she wakes up and she goes to the wedding reception after having been at the wedding. And we never, for the record, see the wedding. I want to point that out. We don't see the wedding actually happen. We only see things from the reception's point of view. And she goes to the reception and hears a fantastic speech by Niles, who basically knows right how to speak to her soul directly. And then, he does a few things that are funny. He is able to predict what's going to happen at the reception before it happens. When somebody sits down, when somebody's about to choke on some food, when somebody's about to drop something onto their sleeve or their coat. Small things that really intrigue her and get her asking questions about who he is. This turns her on enough to actually hook up with him, buy some rocks. And then right before they actually get down to the dirty, he gets shot in the leg with an arrow by a crazy dude. And that leads Sarah into a cave that Niles was crawling towards, which forces her to relive the day again and again and again and again. How do I say this? I had no expectations going into this movie. None. None whatsoever. I'd seen the trailer. I was like, seems like it'd be cute. I'll watch it. I was blown away by how good this movie actually is. And I want to go on a little bit of a diatribe, if you'll forgive me. Relationships are such a tenuous, difficult thing to manage, whether they're new relationships or old relationships. And when you're stuck in a time loop, not that I have experience with this. If I did, I'd change a lot of different things. When you're stuck in a time loop with someone who sees no value in the world, or has been through so many loops that they see no value in the world, and they start to see value in the world through you and your experiences, it changes your decision making. Because what I didn't mention about Sarah is that she is a train wreck. She does anything and everything according to her that will ruin the lives of other people, including herself. And we don't understand why this is, because we don't understand what she's done that's so awful. Later on, we learn what that thing is, and we're completely on her side of why she's so awful because of one very specific thing, and that's how she wakes up every day. How she starts her loop is so crucial to us feeling what she feels. Niles, however, I don't understand Niles a lot of the time throughout the film because he wakes up and every day, I'm sorry for the children in the room, bangs his girlfriend, who he realizes by several loops is cheating on him. So there's really nothing to feel for Niles as a person. He's pretty much a douchebag because he's tired of living in the loop. But he won't say that he's tired of living in the loop because he still finds bits of it entertaining. Um,
I don't know about that. I mean, so Niles, I mean, so, you know, let me just start off with, that's an interesting part of this movie is that we're introduced to Niles after he's already lived this day. We don't even know how many times,
yeah,
right? I mean, and he's bored. He's beyond bored. He's given up. He sees no meaning in his existence. And it's a strange and unsympathetic way for a character to be introduced to us, especially if it's the main character of the movie.
mm-hmm.
Which, you know, it's a different take from Edge of Tomorrow, because in Edge of Tomorrow, you know, we sort of see Tom Cruise live this first day the first time, and then we see him wake up the second day with the sense of, wait, what's going on? You know, and in this one, no way. You know, by the time we meet Andy Samberg, he's already the master of this day. And we learned, to throw one more thing out there, that he's already introduced one other person to this time loop.
Which is the person that shot him in the leg. And
Right.
I want to get to that if I could.
Please.
So there's a person that periodically hunts him down and attempts to, and mostly succeeds in hilarious ways, of killing him because he's so angry to be stuck in the loop. This is a guest at the party that he got high with one time, and then the guy that was high with him mistakenly said, "You know what? I have no life. My life is horrible. I really wish I could just do something else for a while." And Andy Sandberg was high enough to lead him to the cave and make him start the loop. But it's that character that really brings everything home for me. It's J.K. Simmons' character, and late in the film, he has a conversation with Andy Sandberg about, you know what? I may be in this loop, but I really didn't appreciate my life and how good I had it. Look, my kid's over there watering a piece of
Piece of
shit
poop.
in the grass, and it's lovely. My daughter's going to draw a watercolor picture where I look like a dinosaur. It's going to be freaking awful, but I love it. I miss this. I cherish this time because I didn't care about it before, but I do now. And that's what you have to learn to do. And that's when the movie went from, oh, this movie's quite good, to, God, this movie's brilliant. Because it not only got that really bad character to wake up, but it really grew the people within that one frame of dialogue. That one scene just shifted the weight of the movie from, slapstick comedy where they do all the things to try and destroy themselves and get out of the loop, to, oh, there was much more meaning to life than I gave it credit for. And I think that's why I love this movie. That's why I'm moved by this movie in the ways that I am. But I think the other dagger, and I want you to talk about this a little bit if you have time, is the idea that Sarah's way of waking up is a reminder of her failures every day. Every day. And I think there's something powerful about that.
Right. I mean, so let's not tip the story, but I mean, you're right. She wakes up with a reminder of of her failures, and she kind of comes to grips with that part of her life. Now, part of the problem I have with this movie, though, was I didn't really buy the relationship between Niles and Sarah. I didn't. I understood why Niles would delude himself into thinking that he was in love with Sarah, but I did not understand why she was, why he appealed to her, because to me his character was completely unsympathetic from the beginning till the end. And I will agree with you. I mean, that scene with Roy is a powerful scene, with a fun ending to that scene. Yeah, but it doesn't seem like he's really that much of a person. He just sort of one day decides, oh, I love Sarah, and he, for some reason he sort of thinks that that's going to make it all better, when in fact Sarah is much more into trying to find a solution to their problem, which was kind of to me a little bit of an interesting sort of middle, sort of, I don't know, middle 2/3 of the movie, whatever, near the end, where she goes and learns, uses her days to learn whatever kind of crazy physics or whatever to come up with an idea of how to get out of the time loop. So I gotta say, I mean, I wasn't as enamored about this movie, only because I liked the setup, I liked the beginning, the first half, but from that point forward, the two characters, I didn't buy them as a couple.
You don't believe in the love story. And to be fair, neither do I.
Yeah.
But what I do believe in is them getting over their past mistakes, their past judgments of each other and themselves. And
Okay.
that to me is the main redeeming factor in the whole movie. It has nothing to do with their romance. The
Well, and
romance can go kick a
she's
butt.
redeemed, but I'm not sure that he actually. I mean, he at that point at the end, she asks him. Here, I'm giving nothing away, because she asks him what he used to do, and he can't even remember. Right? I mean, so it's not like he has these. It's not like he's got these past mistakes that he's making up for. If anything, the mistakes he's making up for are the ones that he's made once he was in the loop.
Okay, so let me float this one idea toward you and then we can go to conclusions.
Okay.
He's redeemed by the fact that he finally made a choice to care about something and someone rather than to just let it all slide like he did before.
Okay.
That's his redemption. It's a smaller fraction of a redemption compared to what Sarah Bowell would. Absolutely, no question.
Yeah.
But to make that choice to care and to love, even if it's love that we all think is complete BS, which I'm with you on that, to make that choice after not making that choice for who knows how many loops, that's growth, whether we like it
It
or not.
is. It is. All right. So here, final note I'd like to point out, just a kind of strange thing, and says something about the human race. In both of these movies, the way that they solve this time looping problem is to go blow something up. Gonna strap a big old bomb to myself and
Or
go
sheep.
blow it up. And somehow that solves everything. So I don't know what that says about the human race and how we like to solve problems, but if you have a big problem, go blow it up.
I mean, they should just take the path of modern day and just unleash a virus on it, but okay.
Yeah. Well, then there's the other comment. Just talk about, everything that we watch seems to come back to the pandemic, but, the idea of being in a time loop and living the same day again and again is probably something that a lot of us can associate with the pandemic. So it's an interesting kind of movie to watch when in fact many people really are living the same day again and again stuck at home.
I agree. Would you recommend Palm Springs to people?
I would. I mean, hey, if you're stuck at home and you want to, first of all, Hulu is free to try. I signed up for it in order to watch this movie. It's free to try. And if you want to watch new entertainment, of which there's not a lot these days to, be coming out, then, I think this is an interesting movie. It's got parts that make you laugh. It's got things that actually make you think. To me, it's not a perfect movie or not maybe even a great movie, but it's a new movie, and that in and of itself is something.
I
Do
would
you
agree.
recommend this movie?
So next week we'll be talking about more movies that we love. They may not be time related since we're out of time, but we will find two new movies to talk about next week on another edition of Real Reviews Home Edition. Until then, I'm Chike Coleman, and that's Sanford Hess. We'll see you at home, in your living rooms, at the movies. Bye, guys.